Hello and welcome to Nights at the Game Table. We're here at Pat's Games in Austin, Texas. I'm Kevin.
I'm Aryeh.
And tonight we're going to be taking you through our draft picks for white cards in Guilds of Ravnica, pick or pass.
To keep up to date with everything at Nights at the Game Table, all you have to do is click subscribe and then hit that tiny little notification button next to it, so every time we upload a new video, YouTube will be sure to let you know.
Kicking things off, we have the only white mythic, Divine Visitation.
I'm just gonna pass this card.
It's so fun.
I mean, maybe if you have another mythic like March of the Multitudes, you can try to do something, but there's just no way.
Sure.
Yeah, the
Too
card's
hard to pull off.
Too slow, too specific. Yeah, it's a pass.
Alrighty. Light of the Legion.
Light of the Legion is, can I say a pick sometimes?
Yeah, you can.
I think the card's good. I think that white is the color that's the least interested in a 6-mana card. So it ends up being slightly more awkward. Also, something about the card that doesn't always like click in your head until you play it is when it dies, it only puts counters on white creatures, which are exactly the creatures you're least likely to have in a deck that has this card, because it's usually going to be in a kind of multicolored control deck.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to say Light of the Legion actually is going to be a pass for me, believe it or not.
Venerated Loxodon.
Venerated Loxodon, one of the best cards in the entire set. Basically a crusade, is what we would call it back in the day, where it puts counters on pretty much all your creatures. And, you know, it's a giant 4/4 that's cheaper to cast with Convoke, makes all your creatures bigger. I'm going to call that one a pick.
Alrighty. Citywide Bust.
Citywide Bust, I'm going to call it a bust. Citywide Bust is just not quite what you want. There are some Boros decks where you wouldn't mind having it against a green deck, but it almost comes off as more of a sideboard card, which for a rare is not great.
Yeah, alrighty. Dawn of Hope.
Dawn of Hope is amazing. It is a certain pick for me. I love taking this card. I love playing with this card. On its surface, it doesn't look nearly as powerful as it ends up being, but the combination of being a mana sink, a way to advance your board with 1/1s, but then also a card draw engine, makes the card just extremely versatile, extremely powerful, easy card to pick up early in packs.
Alrighty, and Bounty Agent.
Bounty Agent's a pass. I mean, it's a rare that's basically a 2-mana 2/2 that doesn't even have Mentor. It's like, why don't you have Mentor?
And it's not likely to kill...
Yeah,
I mean, if it kills anything, it's good, right?
Yeah, I mean, if your opponent has some legendary thing and you can kill it with this, that's great. I think in sealed maybe gets a little bump, but in draft, I mean, there's commons that I think are better 2-drops than this guy.
On to the uncommons with the Flight of the Equinaughts.
I like Flight of Equinaughts a lot. It's a very large flyer with Convoke, which are all good things, but I think the way the math works out on Convoke, 6 or 7 is a lot easier than 8. 8 is a tough number for Convoke. And it's something that you'll notice when you play this card. It can be very difficult to get it out of your hand. That being said, it's still a card I'm willing to take and try to build around, because it is very powerful.
Alrighty. Inspiring Unicorn.
Inspiring Unicorn, I'm going to say, is a pick. It is a 4-mana 2/2, which is not always what you're in the market for with Boros. But I think this card for Selesnya especially is very, very good, where you have a lot of small green creatures in the set, and this is a crusade for those guys. I look for this more in Selesnya than Boros, but I think it's definitely a pick in either one.
All right. Crush Contraband.
Easy pass. Sideboard card, like a Disenchant. Disenchants, unless they can do something else, pretty much always a sideboard card. This one, you know, no change there.
Alrighty. The Conclave Tribunal.
Conclave Tribunal is a pick. This card is really, really good. Any kind of sort of like Oblivion Ring effect, like exile a permanent, is always great and limited. But the fact that you're convoking this quite often, actually, to allow you to double spell in a turn, where you can tap some of your creatures to convoke it for like 1 or 2 mana, then also add to your board with something else. Those kind of turns where you can really like tempo out your opponent by playing a removal spell and adding to your board, those kind of turns are what wins games of draft. And this card is very effective at doing that.
Rock Charger.
Rock Charger is interesting because we've seen this card printed before as a common, and Wizards actually released an article where they admitted that this card is too good to be a common. So they've moved it to an uncommon. It's a 1/3 that gives another creature flying. This card's very, very solid, very good in this set. 1/3 flyers, great to mentor onto. and it also pairs well in Selesnya with large green creatures, you know, giving them wings. So I'm going to say it's a pick.
Nice. The Sunhome Stalwart.
Sunhome Stalwart, I'm going to say also is a pick. I mean, Sunhome Stalwart, for a 2-drop to have First Strike, is going to be, in most games, makes it unable for your opponent to either attack or block effectively in the early turns, which is a great thing.
And they're mentor.
And it also has Mentor, yeah. It just threw Mentor on it too. First Strike and Mentor.
Nice. Demotion.
Demotion, I feel like maybe there's some sort of hyper-aggressive Boros deck where you could play this. It's basically like a falter effect. They can't block. I have yet to find a deck where this card would be in my deck. So I'm going to say it's a pass. I think if you find a deck for it, cool. I wouldn't be drafting it high.
Alrighty. Gird for Battle.
Gird for Battle is an interesting one. I have heard a lot of opinions on it. Some people say they absolutely hate it because they feel like it's a sorcery speed pump spell. I'm going to call it a pick. I do like it. It's a good one-of to have in either Boros or Selesnya. Sometimes getting your creature to 4 or 5 power is the difference between attacking or blocking and not doing so effectively. So I'm going to say cheap 2 for 1. I'm going to call it a pick.
Alrighty. Hasda Marshal.
Hasda Marshal, I'm actually going to call a pass, weirdly enough. Even though a 1/1 is great when you're talking about Mentor, you want to be able to play 1/1s in your deck. Hasda Marshal is not my favorite 1/1. We're going to get to my favorite 1/1 a little bit later, so I'm going to say pass.
Okay. We're going to start out in the commons now with the Loxodon Restorer.
Yeah, Loxodon Restorer is a pass. If you're convoking, I think you want to be convoking like a Siege Worm. You don't want to convoke a 3/4.
3/4. It's not. All right. Intrusive Packbeast.
Intrusive Packbeast is, I think, a pass. It's just a 5-mana 3/3. It's not the kind of card you need to prioritize in a draft. If it ends up in your aggressive deck and it has a good, it has a good ability for an aggressive deck, but it's by no means a card that you want to have in every single deck. I think you can pass it and pick it up 9th, 10th, 11th pick a lot of the time.
Alrighty. Ledev Guardian.
That is a hard pass. I think Ledev Guardian is an unplayable card, period. I don't think any deck should ever be playing this card. It is a 2/4 that is difficult to play. I mean, what else do you want to say? 2/4s aren't that good. 2/4s that are hard to get into play on a relevant turn or even worse. Get out of here.
Shot.
No.
Parhelion Patrol.
Parhelion Patrol, I'm going to call it a pick. I am going to caution that I don't like picking it like first or second. I find that you want to be focusing, especially in white, on your 2 and 3 mana cost cards. That being said, it is a flyer with Mentor. It's going to make your deck a lot of the time. We'll call it a pick, but a pick you don't want to make like first or second in a pack.
All right. Candlelit Vigil.
Pass.
Too easy to do for one you?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like post-board, if you see your opponent's short on removal, you can kind of try to make your flyer bigger, but you can't start that card in your limited deck. You're asking to get blown out.
All right. Color the Culprit.
Color the Culprit, I'm going to say, is actually going to be a pass. It is a removal spell, but it's a very conditional removal spell to the point where you don't mind playing it in your deck, but there's almost always something better for you to take out of a pack. I like Color the Culprit more as a card for the 3, 4, 5, even 5-color control decks. I think it's a great card for them. If they're splashing white, they might want to play this card. The aggro decks, I think they're looking elsewhere.
Alrighty. Blade Instructor.
Blade Instructor is, I'm going to call it a pick, but it is a card I've seen go very, very late in draft. I've had decks where I've gotten it. I got it literally last pick, which means somebody took a basic land over it. So it is not a card that receives a lot of love.
Maybe it was foil?
I don't know. I don't know. They said forget it. They didn't even want that card.
Right.
I think it's good. I think a 3-power Mentor is good. I do caution you should always play it in a deck that has multiple pump spells so you don't get blown out by 1 toughness creatures.
Alrighty. Luminous Bombs.
Pick. Pacifism has been great as long as they've printed it in Magic, and adding 1 to its cost doesn't make it much worse. Still a great card.
Sworn Companions.
Sworn Companions, I'm going to call it a pick for Selesnya and a pass for Boros. Making 2 creatures is almost like adding mana when you're trying to cast Siege Worm. In Boros, 2 1/1s, not as great.
Alrighty. The Skyline Scout.
Oh, Skyline Scout is a pick. I love this card. The fact that it doesn't always fly doesn't seem great, But having any kind of mana sink in the late game is something to do to use your mana. This card provides that, while also being a 2-power on turn 2 creature, which is perfect for both Selesnya and Boros.
Alrighty. The 10th District Guard.
10th District Guard is a pass. I don't understand what happened here. They've done this effect in the past where like a creature will give +1/+1, or it gives like +1/+0. But this one gives +0/+1. Like, who wants that?
Maybe hold out for the 11th District.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't understand that one.
Alrighty. Hunted Witness.
Hunted Witness is a pass. There are some heavy Convoke decks that do want it. If you have a ton of mentoring, you might think about it because it's a 1-mana 1/1. But in general, it's going to be pass.
Alrighty. Righteous Blow.
Pass. If you're using a combat trick in Boros, you are going to want to pump up your creature, not necessarily deal 2 to theirs.
Speaking of which, Take Heart.
Take Heart is a pick. I think in most of the Boros decks you play, you want to have between 2 and 4 of this kind of effect. You really, really want to be able to use your combat step to pump up your creature, either destroy or trade an opponent's creature, and then use your second main phase to play an additional threat. This effectively is like a removal spell for 1 mana. I love it in Boros. I think it's a great card to pick up.
All right, Aryeh, and I've saved your favorite for last. Tell us about Healer's Hawk.
So Healer's Hawk is interesting. It's a 1-mana 1/1, which in Limited historically has always been unplayable. But in this format, Healer's Hawk is great. It's a Convoke card. It's a card to mentor onto. It's just a fantastic card with lifelink. I love it. I will pick Healer's Hawks like pretty high. I don't mind having 2 or 3 of them in my deck. And they just seem to always overperform. It's like amazing how good they really are. When I first saw the card, I thought, no way. Like, there's no way I'm playing 1-mana 1/1. The more and more I play the format, the more Hawks I want in my deck. Go figure.
What a difference a format can make.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great example of like a contextual card that in other formats you would never play, and in this format is fantastic.
Wow. This has been our rundown of white limited picks in Guilds of Ravnica. Aryeh, thank you as always.
It's been fun.
If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe to our channel down below, and you'll be hearing from us again very soon. Thank you for joining us on Nights at the Game Table.